This is a good example of a question where I hope your instincts, your ear, whatever you want to call it, is strong enough to just kind of get you the answer right away. So the answer choices do tell us that they're interested in punctuation. And remember, punctuation is there to insert some sort of break in a sentence, right? There's an interruption, there's some sort of change in the structure. So let's take a look at the sentence. The first part doesn't really matter, but I'll read it anyway. A harpsichord may look just like a piano, but the difference between the two instruments is easy to hear. When a harpsichord's keys are pressed, the strings inside the instrument are plucked, not struck. So there's pauses within the sentence, but not around that word instrument, right? The strings inside the instrument are plucked. That is just its own sentence. There's no interruption, there's no break. So B is the answer here. No punctuation is necessary. The other punctuation in the sentence is being used to add extra pieces on. So the beginning part is very clearly an intro clause. We have that kind of intro word when, and so that couldn't stand alone as its own sentence. It's just a dependent clause. And at the end, we have kind of a dependent clause as well, but this is something that luckily we don't really have to think about when we make our own, when we have to decide on the answer for a lot of these grammar questions, is these kind of like weird, it's like an extra clause, but almost like kind of rewrites the sentence as you're saying it, right? So that's what that comma is doing, is it's showing us that kind of shift in the sentence structure. One other thing I'll point out is in some cases, not all, but in some cases, a colon like this and a dash like this are going to be used interchangeably. They basically would do the same thing. So both are wrong here, and I wouldn't have like crossed them both out to start because there are enough differences between these two punctuation marks that they're not always the same thing, like with a semicolon and period. But it is something here that like they are kind of being used the same way to maybe end a sentence and then add on an extra piece, but that just doesn't really work here because, again, we're not ending the sentence. We're continuing it until the comma right here. That's kind of where the sentence more like ends. So hopefully you can just hear that we don't need any punctuation at all. And just as a reminder, just because they offer you punctuation doesn't mean you need to take it, right? So that's also part of the SATs. Don't get intimidated into putting a punctuation mark where there doesn't need to be one.